Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Eden Zero, Chapter 46. Okay, so continuing from last week, this pretty much this chapter piled on the parallels to piled on all the Fortune Teller Bob arc parallels. However, one thing I will say is that unlike the Bob arc, where that particular arc had balanced action and comedy, it felt like Mashima in his signature style. He went straight for it was comedy pretty much. And unfortunately, with Mashima doing it like that, he really wasted the potential that basically that pretty much the Shiki fight, the Rebecca fight, and the Weiss fight actually had for and I think the reason why I'll get into the reason as to why he did it in a bit here, but I think one of the reasons he did it like this is because it was for the sake of pacing, which in itself. If that is the case, I even in that scenario, if it was for the sake of pacing, I still kind of question it because I definitely feel that in terms of these fights that we saw in this chapter, I think there was a way in order to make them work better and still keep the pacing that you did, but yeah, like the fights in themselves, I just wanted to see more of them, and and the fights just felt really underwhelming. It's not that they were bad; it's just that the fights in general, the first three fights of this little tournament were very underwhelming. Well, but like I said, I do have a bit of a note that I think Mashima was going with here. So but. But yeah, in general, but overall, it just feels like another case where Mashima had a great idea, but he executed poorly. Because even taking out the fact that the Mashima had kind of ripped this idea from like the OG Dragon Ball manga, in general, it is an idea that pretty much has potential story wise. So like, yeah, it feels like he wasn't executing it properly, but yeah, it's in general, it's one of those times. In general, too, it's one of those times where if and when the Eden Zero ever gets an anime adaptation, I really hope that the studio even decides, even if it's just by a slight amount. I hope that the studio kind of expands a bit on the Weiss and Rebecca fights, even if it's just for basically the simple sake of expanding on the comedic aspect of the fight. I don't care. I wanted to see more of those fights in general. I think there was again, there was potential there. So yeah. now, like I said, I think Mashima had developed a bit of an out in terms of how these fights have gone so far, and I think. Now, with this chapter, I think Mashima had kind of developed a bit of an out that he had for the reason as to why all these fights are basically as short as they are, which is that in the moment after Rebecca's fight, there's a moment where Xiaomei monologues about how she still couldn't see Rebecca's ether. So I think the out that Mashima's going for in that particular case is that all these fights so far are probably more about Xiaomei even kind of evaluating everyone's development and abilities over just like over a fight of who is the strongest. I think that's what he's going for, but I don't know. I could be wrong, but it does kind of give off that vibe of what he's doing, of what he was doing with these fights. But even then, again, I feel even if that was the case, you definitely could have made them just a little longer. I don't know. Now, and yeah, I'm not even going to beat around the bush any longer. The chapter ends with Homura stepping up to fight a replica of her master, Valkyrie. And that in itself just raises so many question marks. The biggest of which, though, is that this proves that at some point in the past, that Xiaomei had an encounter. That Valkyrie and Xiaomei had an encounter with each other at some point. Otherwise, the latter, I don't think would have even been that Xiaomei and Valkyrie had an encounter with each other at some point. Otherwise, I don't think otherwise the former, I don't think it would have even been able to make a copy of the latter to begin with. Now, as to Now, in terms of how Valkyrie and Xiaomei know each other, um, I'm betting money right now that after Ziggy's death, I'm pretty sure that pretty much Valkyrie had pretty much sought out in order to complete his work and find Mother, which inevitably led Valkyrie to find Xiaomei and ask her where Mother was. Of course, that in itself raises an even bigger question of what Valkyrie had to give up in exchange for that information. Um, but yeah, in general, this proves just the fact that pretty much the Valkyrie that Homer is about to face is a replica. It does prove that this is establishing a connection of some kind. Obviously, again, that Xiaomei and Valkyrie had known each other in some capacity, and and whatever that connection is. I think it's clear as day that pretty much Xiaomei definitely has some explaining to do after this, and she can definitely start by telling us how. One question I definitely want her to start with is how she even cloned a starshine to begin with. It's just if this is what Prince Valkyrie looks like, then it is a carbon copy. So yeah, in general, I definitely want. This raises a whole lot of questions I want answers to, but yeah, let's definitely start with how Prince Xiaomei had created this clone to begin with, and what her connection to Prince and what Xiaomei's connection to Prince Valkyrie is. That I think that's a start for sure. And because this Valkyrie is a clone, it is obviously going to be weaker than the original. But one thing I'm really hoping that Mashima does is that. But one thing I'm kind of hoping for is that the reason that Mashima had basically scrubbed all those other fights is basically so he could dedicate a lot more time to this fight, and showing us what Prince Valkyrie is at least partially capable of, because if he scrubs this fight, I will be pissed. I'm not, again, even if it's just a clone, it should have a partial amount of Valkyrie's power. And this, we have to remember that this person is the one who trained Homura. So obviously this character is a big deal. And yeah, if Mashima decides to scrub this fight, I will be pissed. Especially since what's basically staring us in the face is character development especially since character development for Homura is staring at her right in the face. So yeah, Mashima, it's just you have a setup in order to give you didn't really do much with those other fights, but you have a setup in order to give Homura some great character development. So please use it. I'm begging you on that. But yeah, overall, yeah, this chapter in general was definitely an eye opener in places for sure. And yeah, I definitely want to know again. I know I keep repeating myself on this, but I definitely want to know as to what the connection between Homura and Valkyrie is. Like I said, I'm almost positive that Valkyrie was looking for Mother in Ziggy's place, but we'll just have to wait and see what exactly where Mashima decides to go with this. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.